Hi, Darren Gabbard here with 345 Auction. Welcome. On Sunday, November 26th at 7 p.m., we have a very special specialty auction coming up, and it's going to feature bourbon whiskeys from around the United States. In fact, one of them was made right here in Colorado. I myself am not very familiar with bourbon whiskey, but I do have someone here who is. Her name is Melissa, and she did all of the lots for this particular auction, and so she has the research that is necessary to tell you all of the details about these fantastic whiskeys. So let's have Melissa come in and begin to talk about what is special about these whiskeys. Melissa?
Okay, well, in this particular auction, we have several bottles of highly collectible bourbon whiskeys. Especially for the collectors, this is going to just be a very exciting auction.
Now, what is the difference between, again, for my edification as well, but what is the difference between, say, bourbon whiskey and another kind of whiskey?
Irish whiskey or something?
Irish whiskey, yeah.
Okay, in particular, bourbon has to have a mash bill of 51% of corn, whereas Irish whiskeys and Scotch whiskeys are mainly barley and rye.
Okay, very good. Mm-hmm. Which one would you like to start with here?
Let's start with Stranahan's. This one has a very interesting history. It's from a Denver distillery, the first distillery in Colorado since the Prohibition. And on top of that...
so was it made in a bathtub is what you're talking about? Okay.
Well, in this particular year, it came out during the pandemic. So they couldn't release it this year, that 2020. So they ended up releasing it at Red Rocks in 2021 along with the 2021 edition. And so the lines were apparently just insane to grab bottles of these. And so it's a very special whiskey, especially for Colorado. We're still getting our feet into the distilling field.
Okay.
So I think it's exciting to have.
Now, all of the bourbons in this particular auction are known as single barrel. And what does that mean specifically?
It just means that they're aged in one single barrel rather than moved back and forth like blended whiskeys would be, making it a more premium whiskey.
Okay, excellent. Now, in this particular vintage here, while it was originally intended to be released during the pandemic and it wasn't, what makes this, why would so many people line up to get this particular whiskey?
Because it's a Colorado distillery and a lot of people like to get local. Kind of get their feet in on the local distillery.
Okay, well, there we go. Stranahan's whiskey, and this is the Stranahan Snowflake.
Mm-hmm, the 2020 edition.
The 2020 edition, outstanding. Okay, what do we have next?
Okay, next we're going to go with E.H. Taylor.
Okay.
E.H. Taylor was considered like the master of bourbons. He was creating a whole city, pretty much, that catered to bourbon making. And he was known as the father of modern bourbon industry.
Okay, and approximately when was he around?
If I remember, it's about the 1880s.
1880s,
mm-hmm.
Okay.
And in fact, he helped push for the passage of the Bottled in Bond Act in 1897, creating a higher standard, a consistency in the distillation of bourbons.
So that when you get a bourbon, you know that it's going to be a particular kind, a particular quality, a particular...
Less bathtubby.
Less bathtubby, okay.
And in fact, he created the Warehouse C is actually coveted by and used by several brands of bourbon makers, but Warehouse C was built by him for this little city he wanted to create of the perfect distillery.
Okay, so this would be...
so this is their highest end of bourbons.
E.H. Taylor Warehouse C. Again, It is a single barrel whiskey, not blended, just beautiful whiskey. Now, what are some of the characteristics of this kind of a whiskey? I don't have the tongue for it. I don't have the palate to understand a bourbon whiskey. What are some of the characteristics that you find typically with a bourbon whiskey?
Well, there's going to be a sour mash. They tend to be sweeter than the Irish or the Scotch whiskeys. Okay. I think the sugars in the corn just create that warmth.
Okay, good. Which one should we do next? We have 4 here out of this particular option.
I think we're going to take the pinnacle of American bourbons and hit the Pappy Van Winkles
Pappy Van Winkle. There we go.
Mm-hmm. So we have here a 15-year Pappy Van Winkle bottle. We actually do not have the year it was distilled, strangely enough, but if you look on the website, our website, 345auction.com, you'll see that the serial number is on there, and that should be able to lead you to the proper year.
Okay. Now, who is Pappy Van Winkle, and what is his significance in the history of whiskey?
He was just one of the early distillers that somehow just became one of the best bourbons out there.
Okay. The guy had a knack then.
He had a knack. Absolutely.
Okay. And we have one left, which is which one?
Okay, here, this is interesting. We're bringing this after the Pappies only because Weller's whiskeys are the, what would you call it? The less loved of the Pappies. So we have this. This is going to be almost the same thing as this one, but more affordable, number one. And it didn't quite meet the taster's, test.
Okay.
So then they throw it into Weller's instead.
So it's essentially made at the same time, but this, for whatever reason,
Didn't quite make it up to scratch as the Pappies did.
Okay.
So it is a more affordable version if you want to have a similar experience, not the same.
The entry-level Pappies.
There we go.
Okay. Very good. So all of this is coming up on November 26th at 7 p.m., which is a Sunday. If you have never bid with 345 Auction, what I would suggest is that you go to our website, 345auction.com. You can follow the links to this specific auction, register there. They'll take your information. You'll be good to go. You will also be able to bid in any future 345 auction. You'll have better pictures, certainly more complete pictures of the entire bottle, more information on each one of these bottles. And if you decide to bid, this is going to be a very well-attended auction. A lot of people around the country are going to be bidding on this. One thing you do need to know, though, folks, is that we cannot ship this whiskey across state lines. If you do bid on it, it will need to be picked up here at our office. What that means is that if you have, let's say, perhaps a friend who lives here in Colorado, they can come by and pick it up. And if you're seeing them over the holidays, maybe Christmas or the New Year's celebration, you can have them bring it to you. We just cannot ship it. So if you decide to bid on any of these, good luck.